I was sitting in the conference room, watching my boss stand at the head of the table presenting my slides. Word for word, chart for chart. Every strategy, every innovative idea, every late night I'd spent perfecting that pitch, he was claiming it as his own. And the executives? They were eating it up. One of them leaned forward and said, "David, this is exactly the kind of forward-thinking leadership we need more of around here." My hands were shaking under the table. I couldn't breathe, because I knew in that moment he was about to get everything I'd worked for, and there wasn't a damn thing I could do about it. I'm going to tell you exactly how I watched my career get stolen in real time, and how I made absolutely sure he paid for it. Trust me, this ending is worth the wait. 6 months before that meeting, I'd been so excited about this job. I was 28, finally working at a marketing firm I'd dreamed about since college. My boss, David, was in his mid-40s, charming, well-connected, and he had this way of making you feel like you were part of something important. In my first week, he took me to lunch and told me he saw real potential in me. He said he wanted to mentor me, help me grow. I actually teared up in the restaurant bathroom because I felt so grateful. For months, things were good. I worked hard, stayed late, came in early, volunteered for every project. David would pop by my desk and ask how things were going, give me little pep talks about believing in myself. I thought I'd finally found a boss who actually cared. My parents were so proud. My friends kept saying I'd made it. And honestly, I believed them. Then in March, the company announced a huge pitch opportunity. A major client was looking to rebrand entirely, and whichever team won the pitch would basically shape the future direction of the firm. David called me into his office and said, "I want you to lead this. I think you're ready." I was terrified and thrilled at the same time. He told me to take the reins, run with my instincts, and he'd be there to support me from the sidelines. I threw myself into that project like my life depended on it. I'm talking 60-hour weeks. I interviewed customers, analyzed competitor strategies, built out a complete rebrand concept from scratch. I created mood boards, taglines, a whole new visual identity. I even had a name for the campaign, The Honest Era. It was about authenticity in a world of fake influencers and empty promises. It was good. It was really, really good. David would check in every few days. He'd look over my work, nod approvingly, tell me I was crushing it. He asked me to send him all my files just so I can stay in the loop. I didn't think twice about it. Why would I? He was my mentor, my boss, the guy who believed in me. But then I started noticing little things. He'd take my ideas in our team meetings and rephrase them slightly, like he was building on what I'd said. He started asking weirdly specific questions about my strategy, not in a curious way, but in a way that felt like he was memorizing it. And about 2 weeks before the big pitch, he told me the executives had decided they wanted him to present instead of me. "You'll be in the room," he said. "You'll get full credit, but they're more comfortable hearing it from someone at my level. You understand, right?" I didn't understand, but I was too scared to push back. I told myself it didn't matter who presented as long as my work got recognized. I was so naive. The night before the pitch, I sent David the final deck. Every slide was perfect. I was so proud of it I could barely sleep. I imagined him presenting it, pointing to me, saying, "This brilliant strategy came from Sarah on my team." I imagined the executives shaking my hand afterward. I imagined my career taking off. That's not what happened. So there I was, sitting in that conference room, watching him present my work as his own. He didn't mention me once, not one single time. He stood there in his expensive suit, clicking through my slides, and he even added little personal touches when I was developing this concept and my vision for this campaign. I looked around the room, waiting for someone to say something, to ask who actually did the work, but no one did. They were all too busy congratulating David on his innovative thinking. When the meeting ended, the CEO shook David's hand and said, "This is exactly why we promoted you to Senior Vice President. You've got the vision this company needs." Promoted. He got promoted. For my work. I walked back to my desk in a fog. I sat down, stared at my computer screen, and just cried. Quiet, horrible tears that I kept wiping away before anyone could see. I felt so stupid, so used, so completely powerless. That night, I didn't sleep. I just lay there in the dark, replaying every moment, every time I'd trusted him. And somewhere around 3 in the morning, something shifted. I wasn't sad anymore. I was furious. And I decided I wasn't going to let him get away with it. Here's what most people don't know about corporate systems. Everything leaves a trail. Every email, a shared document, every edit, every timestamp, every file version, and I'd been very, very thorough. I spent the next week quietly gathering evidence. I had the original files all timestamped with my name. I had email chains where I'd sent David my ideas and he'd responded with, "Love this, keep going." I had Slack messages, meeting notes, everything. I built a folder that told the complete story, a timeline that made it very clear who'd actually created that pitch. Then I did something risky. I requested a meeting with HR and the CEO. Just me, no David. And what I did next? Most people told me I'd gone too far. I walked into that meeting with printed copies of everything. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just calmly laid out the evidence and said, "I need you to see what actually happened here." I showed them the file creation dates, the emails, the edit history on every single slide that showed my name, my revisions, my late-night updates. I showed them messages where David had specifically asked me to send him my work for review. The CEO's face changed about halfway through. He stopped smiling. He started taking notes. Then I played my ace. Remember how I said David would check in on my work? Well, I'd started recording our meetings after he began acting weird. Just audio on my phone, sitting on my desk. Perfectly legal in our state, as long as one party consents. And I had him on tape, clear as day, telling me, "This is your project, you're leading this. I'm just here to support you." HR was silent. The CEO asked me to leave the room and wait outside. I sat in that hallway for 45 minutes, convinced I'd just ended my own career. I thought about updating my resume. I thought about how stupid I'd been to think anyone would believe me over a senior executive. Then the CEO called me back in. He looked tired. He said, "We're going to handle this. We'll need a few days, but I want you to know this is being taken very seriously." 3 days later, David was gone. Not quietly reassigned. Gone. The company sent an internal email about leadership changes, an organizational restructuring, but everyone knew. People started coming to my desk, asking if I was okay, telling me they'd suspected something was off. Apparently, I wasn't the first person David had stolen from. I was just the first person who'd been able to prove it. And 2 weeks after that, they offered me David's position. Not the SVP title he'd been promoted to. They rescinded that entirely, but his old role as Director of Strategic Marketing. I negotiated for more than he'd been making. They said yes. The first thing I did with my new salary was take my parents out to dinner and tell them the whole story. My mom cried. My dad said he was proud of me for standing up for myself, and for the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe again. I'm not going to lie and say it was easy after that. There were people in the office who thought I'd been too aggressive, that I should have just let it go. But you know what? I didn't ruin David's career. He ruined his own career by being a thief. I just made sure the truth came out. If you're going through something like this right now, if someone is taking credit for your work, if you feel invisible and powerless, document everything. Save every email, every file, every message. Protect your work like it's gold, because it is. And when the moment comes to stand up for yourself, don't let fear stop you. You deserve to be seen. You deserve credit for what you create. The people who try to climb the ladder by stepping on others, they always fall eventually. Sometimes they just need a little push. If this story resonated with you, subscribe. I share a new story every single week, and drop a comment below if you've ever been betrayed by someone you completely trusted. You are not alone, and you will get through this.